All right, guys, take a look at this cover. Brand new book that's out. All of you should get it and read it. She's about to be my guest, Martha Byrne. The book's called In the Interest of Justice, subtitled One Woman's Fight Against a Weaponized Justice Department to Save Her Husband. I heard her story last week, and I said, Logan, we've got to get her on the broadcast. It's a great injustice, and I hope that more people will talk about it and ask President Trump to get involved. Martha Byrne joins me now. Martha, thank you for being with us.
So much for having me. Thank you for that great introduction. I'm glad the word's getting out.
Well, I just heard your story last week. I wish I had heard it before that because this has been going on a while, but I finally heard about it last week. And I heard someone interviewing you and listened to it, and I was absolutely appalled. And I said, Logan, we've got to get her on our broadcast so she can tell more people. I'm sure a lot of our audience has heard it, even though I haven't, which, I follow the news and everything, but I can't follow every story. So somehow this got, past me. But I'm glad I know about it now. But for those who don't know about it, Martha, tell us the story. Tell us what your husband's going through and how this happened.
So my husband was an NYPD sergeant hero in the 90s and earned 78 medals. He was very, very successful on the NYPD, worked in the Bronx, busiest precinct in all of New York City, and had a severe car accident on the job and had to retire. Became a private investigator, changed his life, changed his career, and was very successful at that. And in 2016, got a routine call from a translation company in Queens, New York. Very routine case, looking for some assets, some surveillance, background checks, things like that. Very common. And he hired 2 NYPD detectives who were also PIs for the job. Did some surveillance, notified the local police he was doing surveillance. And then in April 2017, did a couple of days on the case, made a few $1,000s, never thought about it again. And then on October 28th, 2020, they came to my house, the FBI, and arrested my husband for violating the FARA Act, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act, and interstate stalking. A few things about that, which were outrageous at the time. We thought, well, first of all, my husband had saved every invoice and every documentation, and he didn't see anything where there was a foreign government at all, because there wasn't. And he notified the local police he was doing surveillance, and no one ever saw him. So how could that be stalking? So he's like, I'm going to fight this because it must be a huge mistake. And the DOJ had made this big conspiracy case with people that were doing all these other things that had nothing to do with him at all. And I said, you're never going to take a plea deal. And he said, no, of course not. I did nothing wrong. We're going to fight this. And the DOJ, when they hear that, all they do is double down on you. So they want to bankrupt you. They want to do all these things to you, pressure you. And we started getting our discovery. We're like, we're going to fight this. It's going to cost us probably millions of dollars, but we're going to fight this. And we started getting our discovery. And then everything in the discovery proved that he was innocent as well. And some of it was encrypted, which we couldn't open. And they just make your life very, very difficult. So we finally realized we're going to go to trial on this. But we were happy because we had all the evidence. We had interviews that said he was innocent. There was a civil lawsuit against the subject that he had followed, who was a Chinese Wuhan official, it turned out to be, here illegally. Yes. Someone had sued him for $30 million and had a successful $15 million judgment against him. We thought, well, that's good for us because my husband was hired on a civil matter. So it kind of proved that whoever hired him was looking for some civil direction, never asked him to do anything illegal. And my husband spoke freely to the arresting officer for an hour and a half, and it was clear that he was innocent. Well, when we got to trial, he wasn't allowed to use his interrogation video. We couldn't talk about the $30 million lawsuit against the man. We couldn't talk about him being a high-ranking CCP official who had committed crimes in China and in the United States, including immigration fraud, and his wife. We couldn't ask him about anything to do with any of his illegal activities in this country. And no one testified against my husband in this trial. So how was he found guilty?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Let me just stop you right there for a second, though. So this seems to be a common theme I'm hearing, that if you go to trial, if you do not agree to cop to a lower deal, whatever their deal is they're offering you, and you go to trial, that it's rigged. That the judge and everything, and the prosecutor and the DOJ, they're all playing on the same team, and they're going to set the rules because you're not dealing with a judge that's biased. And they're going to set the rules so the jury never hears the reality or the truth of a case. So you're guaranteed to lose. How many times have I heard this in the last few years? Over and over and over. The jury was not allowed to hear this. The jury was not allowed to hear that. And jurors later find out, well, if we had known that, we would have given a different verdict, right?
Right.
So this, one of the people that I've interviewed quite a bit and has written a book about this is Sidney Powell. She's written a book about this, right? She's speaking for our fall conference this coming October. She knows, these federal prosecutors know how the game is played, but it seems as though the judge, that's the biggest thing people probably maybe shock people. Your judges are in on this, are they not?
Well, let me give you an example. So we knew that one of the FBI agents, his name is Robert Riley, one of the agents involved in this case in the New Jersey office, was having active communications with the CCP Wuhan official who was the alleged victim. Like they were having communications via emails, things like that. And on the sidebar, which you kind of learn after the trial, you start reading the sidebars and you hear this argument going, why can't we ask him about these thank you notes? He's getting thank you notes about his immigration. He's getting clearly some sort of assistance, and the judge doesn't allow it. And you go, how is that possible? Why would that be? And we didn't get one ruling in our favor in 4.5 years. Not one motion, not one ruling at court and trial did we get in our favor. Nothing in 4.5 years. I think those odds are incredible.
Yes, they are.
So how could you, it's so clearly they're handicapping you and they're deliberately doing it so that they can win. I mean, when the judge said that he wasn't allowed to put his interrogation video in, which clearly shows that he didn't know what was going on, that he did nothing wrong and nothing illegal. That's when it really hit me. Like, we're never going to win. And then the prosecutors manufactured evidence to the jury, like literally made it up. They talked about a meeting at a mall in New Jersey, which never happened. They made up an elaborate story about it. They were running through the neighborhood. They were being followed. It never happened. There's no evidence of it. There's no photographs of it. My husband wasn't anywhere near a mall. And then the case agent in this case, Christopher Bruno, he never testified at the trial. And I asked someone who was in the FBI formerly, I said, have you ever heard in your life that a case agent who worked on a case for 4 years, an investigation in 4 years, didn't testify? He said, no. I said, and B, there were 5 members of U.S. law enforcement connected to this case, okay? The FBI never spoke to any of them during their 4 years of this investigation, but they were working with the Chinese plenty of times, interviewing them, talking to them, letting them leave the country. It is the most backwards case I don't think this country may have ever seen, because if you're assisting our greatest enemy, the CCP, and you're allowing them to run the show, which is what was happening here, what does that say about our national security?
Exactly.
Right? Why wouldn't you bring in these 3 NYPD detectives who obviously have incredible careers, stellar careers? And my husband had spoken to 2 federal agents about this case back in 2016. They never brought them in either. There was something else going on that was, suspicious to me. And when I wrote the book, and you read the book, the reader can see. I don't have to say or have my opinion about anything. The facts tell the story. It is completely outrageous. But what's so interesting about the book is that, you and I talk about this here. We're saying that we know because we've been in the world of it. We hear the stories. But the everyday American thinks my husband's a Chinese spy. Why? Because they made up stories. They leaked them to the press, made it sound like it was true. That's all well and good. I guess that's the game. But you do that. You put people's lives in danger. You put my children's lives in danger. You put my husband in the crosshairs of dangerous people. And they don't care. They don't care. So I had to go out and kind of, argue this. And so he was found guilty in June of 2023. And then you're waiting to be sentenced, which is another excruciating almost 2 years. Okay. in the meantime, you're trying to get some sense here. Like, is anybody going to stand up and say this was wrong? And we didn't win any rulings. We lost our post-trial motions. We didn't get any rulings. We didn't get nothing. And then to sit in the courtroom and hear the judge put my husband in federal prison. He's never done anything wrong in his life. The alleged victims couldn't identify him in court. They couldn't point him out. Nobody testified against him. He's not allowed to talk about his incredible career in the NYPD. She gave him 18 months. You know why? She said because he had no remorse for the victims. Now,
and who were the victims? Who were the victims?
The victims were, so, oh, I have my camera. What's happening there? The Jinzhou, who was the victim, again, former Wuhan official, fled China in 2010. He was like the mayor of Wuhan, okay? He was not just some guy in, a part of the CCP. He was a high-ranking Wuhan official who was accused of embezzlement and bribes and had stolen tens and hundreds of millions of dollars and fled here to the country. He was not a dissident. His wife also committed immigration fraud. There's a clear case of some sort of money laundering real estate thing going on between them. And then we come to find out recently that he donated to Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016 as a wanted Chinese fugitive to her campaign. Now, I'm sorry, if you're hiding from the CCP, why are you donating to Hillary Clinton's foundation or presidential campaign under your own name? And you're pretending that you're, being bothered. So and they perjured themselves on the stand to put my husband in prison, okay? They made up things on the stand. So my husband's not going to have any remorse because he did nothing wrong. These people are lying to put him in federal prison, and they're criminals.
And so for that, she puts him in jail for 18 months. Now, when did he show up to start serving this time?
A week ago yesterday. So he's been gone for 8 days. Uh-huh.
And how is he being treated so far?
Well, I'll tell you. My husband is a hero among heroes. And he didn't get to where he was in his career by not being able to communicate, not being able to understand people, not being an empathetic person. But he also understands the system because he was a part of the system. But he was a good guy, he was a good cop. But he's a low security prison. I mean, this is not a camp. This is somewhere where it is. He's in Michigan. He's 600 miles away from our family. And we didn't even know where he was going until like 5 days beforehand. And we didn't know where he had to surrender. Nobody told us. I found out by accident. So when I tell you it's been a whirlwind to leave him there and get on a plane and knowing he's innocent and he could possibly get hurt or cops are not the most favorable guests in any prison. So I left him there on his own to survive, literally, and I've never been apart from him for more than 2 weeks for 34 years. And I've been fighting for him. And people have been so wonderful that have come forward, but it's gotten to this point now. And we have to get him out of there.
Now, these are federal charges, right?
Yes.
So where is the Trump administration on this? By the way, have you been able to reach out to one of our broadcast friends who's been on the program, who's sat in a host about 30, 40 times on this network? Our friend, Logan? Yeah, Ed Martin.
So Ed actually wrote a comment for my book. He wrote an endorsement for my book. He's on the second page.
So Ed knows about this then. Okay.
Oh, yes. And the pardon has been pushed all the way. The clemency request has been vetted and it's moving and it's, these things take time. I understand that.
So the good news is your husband may not be there very long.
Right. I pray every day. I pray every day because every day that he's away from us is one day that he shouldn't be there for doing nothing wrong.
Exactly. Now I want to go back to that because the whole story is just so. Your husband has this great career as an NYPD. What was he, a detective?
He was a sergeant and a detective, so he was in charge of Mm-hmm.
And he gets all these awards, like 78. You said.
Yes.
And he retires after a car injury. and he starts becoming an investigator. And someone calls him up and says, what? We want you to do what?
So the woman calls up and says, my client needs someone, a licensed private investigator in New Jersey. My client had millions of dollars stolen from his business, his family business, and he's looking for the money. Like, where did they want to know? Like, does the guy have houses? Does he have car? Like, that's what happens in these cases where someone has stolen money from a business. They want to know, do they put a new addition on the house? Do they, what's their lifestyle, like a day in the life kind of thing. So my husband does do that job. He runs and he sees that there are LLCs with millions of dollars of real estate, residential real estate under this man's name and his family. So he gives his client, he does a surveillance. He's never seen, right? He does surveillance reports. And that's it. And he gives over the information and he moves on with his life.
Okay, so
and he makes a few.
Well, it makes a few $1,000s for doing this.
Yes.
So why was he targeted? How did they find out he was doing this? And what is the motivation for doing this to your family?
I think this has to do with China only. I think that arresting my husband the week before the 2020 election, he makes news, okay? He makes the media. And there was a lot going on with China right around the election with Hunter Biden's laptop. And, I'm not a conspiracy theorist person, but I do know for 100%, based on, you can read it in the book too, that there was a real focus on China and getting some sort of, media about China about the week before the election. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Since this has happened, we have gotten so much information that Mike never should have been arrested as a private investigator, because there were other cases involving China where they did use PIs to do surveillance, and those PIs were never arrested in New York cases. They kept this case quiet in New Jersey. They didn't want New York FBI to find out about it, that they were using Mike in some sort of way. They hid it from their supervisors. This is a very, very bad case, meaning somebody wanted a white American. He was the only American ever arrested in these cases.
And what is the headline they were after? What do you think the crafted headline they were looking for, if it's for political reasons before an election? Biden administration catches American Chinese spy? It
was right before the election. So it was that the DOJ wanted to look like they were doing something against China, because Trump was all about, what are we doing about China? What are we doing about China? Why are we not doing it harder on China? Now the election's coming up, right? And then you have Biden, who's in bed with Chinese. Obviously Hunter was heavily involved with China. So this was kind of an optics case, because it was good for one side to look like they were doing something, cracking down a bit. And it was good for the other side, which was if Biden was saying, well, they're kind of not sort of really doing anything. Because on the day of my husband's arrest, this will give you a clue. Now that we know that Christopher Wray was involved in the election, the ballots that were in, I guess in Albany, I guess they had a case where they had found Chinese ballots, this and that, and they kept it quiet. The day of my husband's arrest, there were 2 letters that came from the FBIAA, which is an organization of all these former FBI agents, retired and this and that, and current and this and that. One went to the Trump administration and one went to the Biden team. And both letters said, please keep Christopher Wray in his position, either one, whoever wins, okay? It was a calculated move to try to keep him in place. Because if you watch the press conference at my husband's arrest, Christopher Wray doesn't know anything about this case. He doesn't have any clue. He doesn't know any details. So I called the FBIAA and I said, who told you to write those letters? Where did that come from? And they said it came from the top. So what I'm telling you is my husband made news. And I know for a fact that there were people that did not want my husband to be arrested, told it was a mistake. He never should have been involved in this at all because he did nothing wrong. And this was completely outside the scope of what these Chinese operations were doing in the United States. And somebody wanted to build their resume, build their ego, make news. And I'm sorry, you don't sacrifice, first of all, our national security by not contacting my family and protecting them. Okay, that's one of the bigger issues. You don't just go willy-nilly and decide to arrest somebody when you have no probable cause. Do you realize that the search warrants that they had on our family, there was no, they lied on the search warrants. There was no probable cause. what these people did in the Red Bank, New Jersey FBI field office, which is it's only a handful of them, okay? It's only a handful, maybe just two. They broke protocol. They spied on our family. They followed us. They went through every piece of our personal information with no justifiable reason to do it. And it's horrifying. And if they could do it to us, they could do it to anybody. They did it to the president, for God's sakes.
Yes.
So that's why I know when President Trump hears the details of this case, he's going to say, they're at it again.
Does he know that?
Same players.
Do you think he has heard this yet, Martha?
I do. I really do. I think that he does know. In my heart, I do. Because there's enough people that have supported us, that have been coming through the administration, or like Congressman Mike Lawler, and phenomenal man, okay? He wrote a letter to the president in support of Mike very recently. We've had so much support from so many different areas and directions. I do believe that he is aware of the case, and I'm only saying that because in my heart, I feel like he does, and I want him to.
And that something happens soon, because the story is tragic, no doubt about it. Yes. But it's not. It's not just about your family, which it obviously is about your family, but it's not just about your family, because, as you just said, this could happen to any of us. Anybody's family, anyone watching tonight can get a knock at the door and find themselves being arrested on trumped up charges that you know you're innocent of. You have all the proof to show you're innocent, but then all that information is not allowed at the trial because the whole legal system is rigged.
Yeah, it's really sad.
We were not living in a free society.
No, we're not.
Prior to interviewing you, I said to my radio audience earlier this week, on another matter that we were talking about, I said, look, we just celebrated the 4th of July. I believe in patriotism. I want to promote patriotism. We should be patriotic. But let's not confuse patriotism with today's reality of liberty and freedom. Am I patriotic? Yes. Do I want to encourage patriotism, as I said? Yes. But part of patriotism is speaking truth.
Yes.
And we don't have liberty and freedom like we think we do, or like many people perceive we do, when we know the things that are going on in this country that are a gross violation of the United States Constitution and our rights given to us by God. Government doesn't give us our rights. Our rights come to us by God. They're to be protected by the government. But these are God-given rights being trampled by the government. And so
Correct.
We're not living in a free society. And if this can happen under the last administration, continue into this administration, which I hope this administration fixes, but if it doesn't, then the message is sent that federal agents and the courts can violate all protocol, all procedures, and all constitutional rights of any American citizen they want for whatever political gain or agenda they might have, which means we are not living in a free society. And frankly, we are all living on borrowed time, because as soon as one of us says something the government doesn't like, they can show up and destroy your life and take your freedom.
Yeah. And I think what happened was my husband didn't take a plea deal.
And what would that have looked like, Martha? What would that have looked like?
Who knows? Who knows? They don't tell you. They just, they barely talked to him about that. And they knew that he was not going to take a plea deal. And so what happens with that in the positive sense is that they have to start giving you discovery, and they don't want to do that because there's stuff in there that they don't want you to see. So they keep it out, and they encrypt it, which with us, they encrypted it so deeply we couldn't even open our discovery, which you've heard about those ghost files now. You're hearing a lot about that now. They're like, well, we handed it over. Well, they handed it over, but then you can't open it, and they won't help you open it. But we fought back, and that's something they didn't expect. So when we started seeing that they were lying and they were communicating with the CCP members and they were assisting the CCP members and they were working with the Chinese agents who were coming here and going, and I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute, we're onto something deeper here that we need to fight for our country. And my husband feels like he's deployed right now. That's the word he used. I feel like I'm being deployed for the American people so that I can fight for their freedoms, for their future. Because I will tell you this, there are investigations going on in this case already. It already has started. I'm going back to DC next week. It's going to continue. Because when someone is held accountable, when someone, it could be just one, we all win because it will stop. As soon as they see that there's some sort of repercussions for this behavior and there's some sort of accountability for this behavior, losing a pension, getting whatever you want to use, that's how we start winning. And prosecutors have immunity, and so do FBI. They have immunity. So they can say anything they want and know they're not going to get in trouble. And I think to myself, yeah, but you still have to be a good person. Like, where's your moral compass to do the right thing? And it's thrown out the window. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely thrown out the window. Okay. I cannot tell you how my husband's like, I was on the NYPD. If I behaved the way that these case agents and these FBI agents, these prosecutors, I would have been a pariah. I would have been fired in NYPD, first of all. I couldn't show my face to anybody ever again because I lied and I perjured myself to win. They wouldn't, the standards were so different. So when he started saying like he couldn't use his evidence, he's like, what do you mean I can't use my evidence? What are you talking about? Like that to him was just a kick in the teeth, and it kept coming and going. And they're brutal. They are part brutal.
Of the goal here,
evil.
Martha, is part of the goal here to use your husband also as an example to say to anyone in the future, you go along, you accept your charges, you plead, you accept a deal, because otherwise it's going to be worse for you. Look at what happened to Martha and her husband. Are they trying now? Are they using guys like him to set the example?
I think that was the initial goal, like to show PIs, like we can get you too, PIs, private investigators. But here's the problem with that. PIs park on public streets. They don't do anything illegal. They took legal work and made it look sketchy, but it wasn't. So not only do PIs park on public streets, what else? Who else does? News organizations, insurance companies do things like this. So they made a really bad decision. So they've never charged another private investigator after my husband. It's over. And then the oversight committee, James Comer's oversight committee in October of 24, wrote a huge report on the CCP. And the Department of Justice got a failing grade because of my husband's case, saying it really looks to appear to be weaponization of government, and he never should have been prosecuted in the first place. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it says, which was they got the worst grade of all the agencies across, I think they did 25 agencies. The DOJ failed miserably because of my husband's case. So our fight has stopped this random overreach on people doing their job. It's like you can't arrest a plumber for changing a pipe, right? Like you can't arrest a private investigator for doing surveillance and background searches and doing that's their job. That's what they do. That's what police do. That's what FBI agents do. That's what paparazzi sometimes does, or investigators do. You can't criminalize the job, right? So we were fighting for all private investigators because the business would be done. You know, if someone's parked on the street, they could say, FBI, I want them arrested because they're parking on the public street. And they could do it based on my husband's case. That is a really scary thing.
Absolutely it is. I want to show this before I play it. Can you tell me what we're about to see here?
So we were ready to fly out, and I wanted to document my husband's last day because I knew he was in so much pain and he could finally be free to speak. And I wanted to capture for everyone to understand where he was emotionally and what we were going through as a family. It's really hard for me to watch that, but I also lived it. So I wanted people to understand the kind of pain and destruction they've caused a hero and a man who served his entire life to service. I mean, he's done so many jobs pro bono just for people that are innocent. Like he's a hero.
Let me play a little bit of this so
people
can learn a little bit more about him personally here.
All right, tell me how you feel right now.
Nervous, a little anxious. I feel like I'm on deployment of some sort, that I'm doing this for the better good. It has to be done to help other people.
And how do you feel?
I hope it does.
How do you feel about the people that did this to you right now? How do you feel about why you're here right now?
The evil people.
What do you feel about them, like, betraying their badge and their oath based on what you've lived in your life?
You know, we were held to a high standard, NYPD. I guess they aren't. I guess some of the agents got away or can get away with anything. And that's disappointing for everybody else in law enforcement that does a good job and is respectful of the laws of our country. And I just hope they get called out, and I hope they get fired or arrested or, you know.
Accountability. What's the saying? Without accountability, nothing changes.
Yeah. Hold them accountable.
Yep.
Shame.
Yep.
You know who you are.
Yep.
That's pitiful. I want to show one other, though. And this is one, I guess he's about to surrender, because this looks like he's on the grounds, right? This one here?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Here
Yes.
we go.
Good. All right.
I'm here. Can't believe I'm here. Milan, Michigan. Unbelievable. Corrupt FBI agents. Unbelievable.
I don't know how they sleep at night, any of them. There's a war on our country, and we're fighting it for you.
There's a war on our country, and we're fighting it for you. Martha, as we get ready to conclude here, I don't want to invade, too much here, but your husband seems like obviously a pretty tough guy. I'm sure he's seen very tough things, and I'm sure he's seen things that he's had to had a hard time dealing with, that involve children and infants and innocent people. So he's at some level also a hardened guy because of the nature of what he's had to see. Just kind of makes you a little bit more tougher. But both those videos, I don't know your husband, but both those videos seem like this very tough former NYPD officer and sergeant and detective. He seems almost a little weepy.
Yeah.
Is that a right characterization?
The betrayal of the people who he thought would have been his fighters standing next to him in arms, which he's worked with federal agents in his cases. He's a 9/11 first responder, my husband. He's had several surgeries for his illness, still to 9/11 illness. He's a hero. The betrayal, that's what you're seeing in his eyes. That he's so betrayed by the justice system that he fought so hard for and would demand justice for the innocent. I mean, he worked on a case pro bono of a young man who was falsely accused of murder. He worked for free because he knew the kid was innocent. He did a boots on the ground case, put posters up, and he found the real killers.
Wow.
Because he knew this kid was going to go to jail for the rest of his life. Okay? That's my husband. That's how he's wired. So to see this evil, dark side of the justice system go after him and our family, what they've done to what they've done to our family.
How old are your children, can I ask?
My oldest son just became a police officer, and he's 27, and he's amazing and has been just inspired by my husband, and he's doing this in his honor for his dad. And my middle son is 22, and he's very successful. He works as a mechanic supervisor, and my daughter's a freshman in college in 19. They're doing so well, despite what they've tried to break up our family. And I said to the judge in my letter, and she never even talked about me when she was sentencing him. She said, my children will be fine because they're adults. She never even mentioned me. Like, doesn't my relationship and our marriage mean anything in our bond that we've fought through this together as a unit, a family unit, and now she's tearing it apart because of whatever reason. But you see betrayal and hurt. It's like such hurt because you're right. He's the toughest guy I know. He's seen people jump out of buildings. He's run into burning buildings. He's taken on gunfire. He was busy every single day on the job, and he saw horrific things. But it counted for nothing, he felt like. It felt like he did this his entire life. No one cared. They didn't take it into consideration. It didn't matter. It was ignored. It was dismissed. It was put in the garbage can. She could have let him stay home. Is he really a threat? Does he need to be locked up in federal prison for what? For nothing.
No, this audience knows I have said over and over for years on my radio show and TV show that we need criminal justice reform or prison reform, whatever you want to call it. We should not be putting non-violent people in prison, period. No, your husband, first of all, should never have been tried. This should never happen.
Right.
But
never.
Like you just said, why would you put a guy like that in jail? We're throwing too many people in prison, and it destroys their lives, their families, or at least damages them in great detail. But you're right, from a common sense standpoint, how it got to this point blows my mind. But two, why would you look at this guy and say, oh yeah, he's a threat to society? You would say, like you said, sentence him for at home. But the whole thing doesn't make sense. The whole thing makes zero sense. But this is not the first case. I've been doing this 35 years, Martha, interviewing people on radio. I have interviewed so many different people through the years. This is sadly a common thing in America where, people say, well, everybody in prison is innocent. Well, we're starting to realize there are a lot of innocent people in prison.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, especially in federal cases, because the pressure and the bullying that goes on. I mean, they don't win 99% of the cases because they're that good. Okay. Please give me a break. How do they indict 99% of the people? And those odds are unbelievable. And there's a reason for that, because they lie and they make things up and they suppress. And I will tell you this, if we can help create some sort of change, and this is all for that purpose, then we would have done something good out of this in the future for other people.
Is your husband going to do the whole 18 months? I mean, you hopefully he'll get pardoned, but with good behavior, what's the soonest he can be out if he doesn't get pardoned, which we pray he does?
I have no idea. It really changes from person to person. I mean, I have no idea, because they don't really tell you anything. You're really going against nothingness. You don't know. And everybody's different. It depends on so many different factors. I mean, the First Step Act, it should help him because clearly he's never done anything wrong in his life. But I just don't know, because
are you allowed to talk to him every day?
I could talk to him twice a day for 15 minutes each on the phone, and that's it. It's not, he shouldn't be where he is. I mean, the fact that he was charged, convicted of a stalking charge, that's considered like a bodily harm charge, and it's a violent charge. And they never even saw him. So for him to be serving this heavy duty sentence for people who couldn't even say who he was, I mean, stalking, I'm sorry. He was NYPD. You're stalking. You need photographs. You need evidence. There was no police reports. There was nothing. Nothing. So these people never called the local police to file charges ever. Nothing. Not one police report. They called the FBI. These people, because they were working with the FBI.
And I noticed the foreword is by Eddie Gallagher. We interviewed his brother, who I think is Sean Gallagher, multiple times while Eddie was waiting, trial. And I've talked to Eddie a couple times since then. So that's who wrote the foreword. There's another example, right? I mean, we have so many we can talk about that we've had his wife, Andrea, on our network being interviewed by our friends, Billy and his wife, Vaughn. So, I mean, these are not, the Gallagher story is another one, just very similar, like we're talking about now. I do want to promote the book again. And by the way, I'm guessing your family has a large attorney fees still, right? Millions
of dollars. We owe millions of dollars right now, millions. And that's it. Eddie Gallagher, the Pipehitter Foundation.org. Eddie and Andrew have been behind us from the beginning and been fantastic, and they're our heroes. But that's a perfect example of taking something so horrible and doing good from it. And we want to help them and with the next people. But Eddie and Andrew are incredible. Yeah, we're going to be, I don't know if we'll ever be able to pay back the legal bills that have built. But listen, we can make more money, but we can't get our integrity back. And my husband has worked too hard and done too much good in his life to let these people get away with this. And, call my husband a traitor to the country, which he is the opposite of that. And I'm so proud of him. And I want him to come home and help other people. And he has. It's going to happen. It's just, this is outrageous. I mean,
it is. And we're going to ask our audience to pray for him and his safety and his spirit.
Thank you.
Pray for you, your family.
Thank you.
Protection of your son, the police officer. Pray for the work that Ed Martin is doing, that this gets to the desk of the president and it gets done in a very quick manner, and he can be home very soon. And in the meantime, I do hope people will get the book, In the Interest of Justice, to get it at Amazon. You can follow her on X, folks. I'm going to show her X account here so you guys can get it right. So there it is. You got to spell her name correctly. I was spelling with B-U, but it's B-Y. So Martha, because I was looking for her X account earlier. So making sure you spell it at Martha and then B-Y-R-N-E and then number 10. And you're giving updates on there regularly, correct?
Every day. And listen, if you want to learn a lot about what's going on with this case, follow my account, because I am naming names and there's a lot of things going on that are pretty powerful right now. Let me tell you. And it's going to get very soon. There's going to be even more coming out about what's happening.
Well, you're welcome back here anytime. And
thank you.
And we want to get an update. So we would love to have you back whenever you need to come back to give information. But we'd love to have you back as this progresses, and maybe very soon you can come on and tell us that you're on your way to Michigan to pick him up.
God, from your mouth to God's ears, God is guiding us here. He is guiding us through this, and he's succeeding and keeping us safe and our hearts full of love. And we are very blessed. We're a blessed family across the board. So thank you.
Wow. To even hear you say that you're a blessed family with all you're going through. That speaks character.
We are.
Speaks character.
We are.
Martha, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Get her book, folks. Get their book, In the Interest of Justice. And as I said, pray for them, okay? And their family, and pray for Ed Martin and then President Trump to work on this speedily. And we'll keep you posted. But pray for them. The Bible says the prayers of the righteous availeth much. And I believe that, don't you? So pray for this family. We'll be right back.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.